Let's do a little thought experiment. Picture this. It's the fall of 2025. We're not talking about some sci-fi movie here. This is just around the corner. And what we're seeing is this perfect storm. Personal struggles, social tensions, and huge global power plays all crashing into each other at once. It's painting a really tough picture for the US. And, to really get what's happening, you can't just look at the big picture. You have to zoom in on a single voice. This quote, it's from a woman named Gigi Ali, who lives in Maryland. And wow, does it just hit you? That feeling of doing everything right, playing by all the rules, and then suddenly the game completely changes on you. The rug is just gone.
So let's dive into that. We're going to start with the story behind all the big headlines. This is about what happens when the systems we all count on start to fall apart, and the real human cost for the people who get caught right in the middle of it.
So who is this person, Gigi Ali? Well, she's a single mom, and she's got a lot on her plate, raising a newborn son by herself, working part-time, and she's studying for her master's degree in social work. I mean, she's doing exactly what she said, all the things you're supposed to do. And like so many other folks, she needs a little help from government assistance just to make ends meet. Okay, so this number right here, this is the one that really matters in her day-to-day life. About $200. That's what she gets every month from SNAP. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Now, it's not a ton of money, for sure, but it is an absolute lifeline. She calls it helpful for feeding her family. Remember that number, $200. It's going to be important. All right, so Gigi Ali's story, it's not some isolated incident. It's not just happening in a bubble. Her personal crisis is a direct symptom of a much, much bigger problem, a system that's breaking down. We're talking about the safety net, the one that's supposed to catch millions of Americans. And what happens when it just snaps? So what is SNAP exactly? Well, it's the biggest food aid program in the entire country. Think about this. It helps feed about 1 in every 8 Americans. So yeah, this is not some small niche program. It is a core part of the American social safety net. And here it is, the breaking point. On October 24th, 2025, right in the middle of a government shutdown, a memo goes out to every state, and it says, suspend all SNAP benefits for November. Just stop them. Poof. The lifeline is gone. And the scale of this thing, it's just massive. This wasn't some little accounting mistake. We're talking about an $8 billion funding gap. $8 billion. That's a number so big, it's hard to even wrap your head around. It left states, food banks, and millions of families just totally scrambling, completely blindsided. So, of course, chaos erupts. And in the middle of it all, a legal fight breaks out. 2 federal judges step in, and they order the administration to use what are called contingency funds, basically emergency money, to get those payments going again. It was this last-ditch effort to try and patch up this huge hole in the safety net. But here's the thing. Even with that court order, it was just too late. The payments weren't going out on time. So the federal government's failure basically forced the states to pick up the pieces. You had places like Virginia and Delaware declaring states of emergency, using their own money to cover just a tiny piece of the benefits, like a quarter of what people normally get. And they had no idea if they'd ever get that money back from the feds. Okay, so while all this economic chaos is unfolding, something else is happening. Another crisis is bubbling up to the surface, and this one feels even deeper. It's like the very fabric of society is tearing. We're seeing this really alarming and very well documented rise in hate. And the numbers, they're just stark. An audit from the Anti-Defamation League shows this huge spike in anti-Semitic incidents. I mean, just look at this. In Maryland, where Gigi Ali lives, by the way, the number of incidents more than tripled in just 2 years. Tripled. And in New York, it more than doubled, soaring past 1,400 incidents. And these aren't just statistics, They're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Behind every single one of those numbers are real people. And these are the kinds of vicious, hateful things being said to them. These are actual quotes from documented incidents. And it's not just words anymore. This harassment is escalating. We're talking about physical violence. At Yale, a Jewish student was allegedly jabbed in the eye by a protester. On campuses, you're seeing graffiti equating the Star of David with a swastika. That line between horrible words and actual violent acts, it's getting really, really thin. Okay, so let's take a step back for a second. Let's pull the camera way, way back from these crises at home and look at the bigger global picture. Because while America is dealing with all this internal turmoil, The rest of the world isn't just standing still. The entire geopolitical map is changing. And here's the key thing to get. All this division, all this strain at home, it doesn't happen in a bubble. At the very same time, global rivals are pouring money into their militaries, they're developing new technologies, and they're completely rethinking their strategies. And here's a perfect visual for that. On the left, you've got your old school silo-based missile. That's Cold War stuff, right? Predictable. On the right, that's a whole different beast. It's the Avangard, a hypersonic glide vehicle. It is incredibly fast, it's way less predictable, and it's built to get around our missile defenses. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a total game changer. It shifts the whole battlefield from something we understood to something, well, something much more uncertain.
So the big question is, how is the U.S. keeping up with these new threats? Well, the American response is pretty much focused through one single massive organization, the biggest one in the entire government. And when I say massive, I mean it. Look at this number, almost 3 million people. That's every active duty soldier, every reservist, and every civilian who works for the Department of Defense. It's just a staggering number of people. And the amount of money involved is just as mind-boggling. The budget request for 2024 was $842 billion. Not million, billion with a B. That's the kind of money it takes to run an operation that big. And then, in that same fall of 2025, something really interesting happens. It's symbolic, but it's powerful. The department gets a second name by executive order, the Department of War. Officials basically said they wanted a stronger, more aggressive-sounding name. It's a pretty clear signal, right? A sign of the country's whole attitude is shifting. Okay, so this is where it all comes together. We've got a failing safety net, a society that's tearing at the seams, and this enormous military machine gearing up for new global threats. So how do all these things connect? What's the common thread? Let's just put two numbers we've talked about right next to each other. On one side, you have that $200 a month, the lifeline that helps Gigioli feed her son. And on the other side, you have the $842 billion annual budget for what is now also called the Department of War. The difference in scale, it's just breathtaking, and it really forces you to ask a pretty basic question about a country's priorities. And that's really the question we want to leave you with. In a world full of threats, both outside our borders and inside them, what does it actually mean to be secure? Is it just about having the most advanced weapons, or does real security also come from a stable safety net, one that supports people like Gigiolio? Does it come from a society where people feel safe from hate? When you look at the whole picture, what is it that truly makes a nation secure?